the Broncos are adding some beef to their defensive line. They picked up Keondre Coburn off of the waiver wire after the Chiefs released him, a day 3 draft pick of theirs from this past draft, and the corresponding roster move to make space for Coburn was wide receiver Lil'Jordan Humphrey was released, which is a bit of a bummer because he was literally speaking to the media yesterday saying, I'm so happy to be on the 53-man roster, and I hope I stay on the 53-man roster. And 24 hours later, he is released. But I think he could come back to the practice squad potentially. Now, let's get everyone familiar with Keondre Coburn, and then we'll talk a little bit about Lil'Jordan Humphrey, and then we'll talk about some other potential roster moves coming down the pipeline here. But as for a background check on Keondre Coburn, like I said, he was a day 3 draft pick this year out of Texas, going to the Chiefs, and it's a bit ironic because I'm guessing they are releasing Coburn to make some space for Frank Clark, and so the Broncos kind of make a trade Frank Clark for Coburn in some ways. But Coburn coming over to Denver, he hasn't done a whole lot for Kansas City this year. He's gotten 9 snaps logged so far, so he was at the absolute bottom of the line when it comes to a defensive line rotation. But he does join a Broncos defensive line that could use more, right? Right now, the Broncos defensive line is just not striking a whole lot of fear into opponents' hearts. I mean, Zach Allen, I'll share the PFF ranking with you guys here. He ranks Zach Allen 45th out of 123 qualifying players. So a top 3rd defensive lineman, right? Mike Purcell, 114 out of 123. So a bottom 10, a bottom 3rd, we'll keep it easy, defensive lineman. And then Jonathan Harris is 87 out of 123. So kind of in that 2nd, 3rd of defensive linemen. So you've got a Papa Bear, Mama Bear, Baby Bear situation going on in terms of how these 3 defensive linemen are playing. And Keondre Coburn's going to come in, and I don't think he's going to walk in and start getting a lot of snaps day 1, but he's a defensive tackle that can hopefully plug up some holes and eat up some offensive linemen and free up Jewell and Singleton and Sanders to get into the backfield and make some plays. So Keondre Coburn comes over as a true run-stopping defensive tackle right in the middle as a tree stump that ultimately didn't catch on in Kansas City for one reason or another. He was the 53rd guy on the roster, and they wanted to make some room. And Denver gets Coburn to come over to their defensive line, where I don't think anyone has earned a whole lot of playing time beyond Zach Allen. Like, no offense to the Matt Henningsons of the world, but this Denver defensive line rotation, it's just not where it needs to be. Like, there's a lot of issues with this team right now, but I think an issue that probably doesn't get talked about enough because it's not a very sexy position group is the interior defensive line. You're just not getting a whole lot of production outside of Zach Allen from that unit. So if there's a guy on the waiver wire who they think can come in and compete and maybe be better than their 4th or 5th guy in that defensive line rotation, I'm not surprised Denver went out and made a move and added him to their 53-man roster. So let me know down in the comment section, like, how would you grade this Denver Broncos defense through 6 games right now? I know some people are saying, well, they've gotten better and they played well against the Chiefs. They still suck. I would grade them out of A, B, C, D, or F. I'd give the Broncos defense a D+. The only reason they're not getting a straight up F for a failing grade is because they held Kansas City to 19 points. That's 1 game out of 6. The other 5 were disastrous. So yeah, I'm going to give them a D+ right now. As for Lil'Jordan Humphrey, like I said, he was released, and it was a bit of a bummer. I mean, just because he's been a taxi guy going for the practice squad to the 53-man roster. And like I said, he just talked to the media yesterday saying how thankful he is to be on the 53, and he doesn't want to go back to the practice squad. And, well, unfortunately, he gets released. And I'm sure Denver will try to bring him back onto their practice squad. Wouldn't be shocked if another team picks him up off the waiver wire or signs them to their practice squad if he clears waivers, because he's been a good player so far this year. He's got a couple touchdowns, right? He's got 1 at least. So Lil'Jordan Humphrey out. By the way, quick sidebar here, just 15 seconds. KJ Hamler, he just kind of popped in my brain today, and I feel like he went away over the summer, and then he went to the Colts practice squad, and we just never talked about that. I don't know why I was looking for kind of closure on it, but yeah, KJ Hamler, like, has just quietly been on the Colts practice squad all year, and we never gave it a second thought when he left over the summer and went to the Colts practice squad once the season started. So whatever, that just kind of popped in my head. Other moves that could potentially be coming down the wire really quickly, and then I'll let you guys go enjoy the rest of your Friday. So Baron Browning, who started the year on the PUP list, is gearing up for a return, and I think it might be this upcoming Sunday. So if Baron Browning can come back and play the Packers on Sunday, well, you need to open up a roster spot. Who's going to be either cut or put on IR? I think we're going to see Greg Dulcich go to IR. It's an all-time bummer. Greg Dulcich has missed through a season and a half, right? 11 games with a hamstring injury. It's the same hamstring. So it sucks to see. It really makes you wonder what his future in the NFL is looking like if every time he comes back, he has to leave because the hamstring is just not where it needs to be. I don't know if they rushed him back this time around, or if he was really 100% and it just flared up the moment he really started running at game speed. I'm not quite sure, but it sucks. It's a bummer because he was a really impressive player in a bit of a small sample size last year. Like that Chargers game on Monday Night Football, he gave us all something to believe in. Like, all right, that could be a really solid tight end down the line. Like, they're not all going to be Gronks and Kelseys, but Dulcich could be a really good day 2 pick for Denver. And now I really wonder, are his days in the NFL numbered if every time he comes on the field, he has to leave by halftime because of a hamstring injury? So that sucks to see. But Baron Browning coming back would be really big for Denver. Like, I know I just gave this Broncos defense a D+, but getting arguably, going into this year, their best edge rusher, that's going to be a huge lift for this defense, right? That's going to give Cooper and Bonito some breathers because now you don't have Gregory or Clark coming off the bench anyway for those guys. And no offense to Thomas and Coombe, the UDFA, I'd rather have Baron Browning on the field so Bonito can come in and be fresh. So my suspicion is we're going to have 2 Buckeye edge rushers, Cooper and Browning, although maybe Bonito has played himself into a permanent starting role and Cooper all of a sudden becomes the 3rd edge rusher in this rotation. But it'll be great to have Baron Browning come back. That would be a huge pickup for this defense and for this pass rush, which has been so off and on this past season or this season so far, from no sacks to the Raiders to getting after a couple of different quarterbacks here and there. But yeah, Baron Browning coming back would be a big win for this Broncos defense. All right, that's gonna do it for today's show. Thank you so much for tuning into a home edition of the Broncos Breakdown. I'm gonna sign off, and I'm gonna see you all later. And enjoy the rest of your weekend.